This year, set a self-improvement goal, like socially dominating your friends with your superior streaming knowledge. Catch up on the hits you missed with Prime Video, from Reacher to Taylor Swift The Eras Tour extended version, and The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. Watch everything included on Prime. Rent or buy new releases. Add on hundreds of streamers. One app, one password. Prime Video. Find your happy place. Restrictions apply. Prime membership not required to rent or buy. See Amazon.com/Amazon Prime for details.
Introducing Wondersuite from Bluehost.com, the tool that makes WordPress wonderful for everyone. Website creation is hard. Was hard, but not anymore, thanks to Wondersuite from Bluehost. Answer a few questions about your business and goals, and the Wondersuite tools will automatically lay out your WordPress website or store in minutes. Seriously. From there, you can customize your design, pick your brand colors, and add blocks. No custom theme or coding required. You'll get content suggestions that you can keep or revise. And with Yoast SEO built in, we automatically help you get found in search engines. From step-by-step guidance to suggested plugins to an AI-powered help bot, our built-in tools make
Educate, empower, enable, impact. Thank you for tuning in to That Will Never Work podcast, where we share inspiring information and personal experiences related to business and the entrepreneurial journey from those who are leaders in their respective field. Now, here's your host, author and business coach, Maurice.
Hey, everyone. Thank you very much for tuning in today. I have my first guest who was born and raised in Alaska. I am so happy and excited to have this gentleman here. He grew up in the financial industry, but also developed a strong background in athletics, nutrition, and performance psychology. He has been owning and running a financial planning firm based out of Anchorage that manages roughly $500 million, ladies and gentlemen. And he has realized managing clients' mindsets, behaviors, and habits is really the most crucial part of his job. So we're going to talk about that today. I am glad that you are tuning in today. I bring to you none other than Chad Hufford. Chad, thank you very much for coming on.
Maurice, it's a blessing to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Sure, no problem, man, no problem. So one of our topics that we talked about off camera, right? So you have this idea of retiring on purpose, right? And so, not just to retire from your career, but to retire to a life that's meaningful, in a pursuit of abundance, right? So how do people put that into their mindset or to their plans of just retiring from their career?
Man, there's so many ways we could unpack this, but let me just kind of lay out some of the fallacies. I think some of the unhealthy thinking that people have around retirement, where they focus on retiring from something but not to something. It's like they're fleeing a career, they're running away from something rather than chasing a life of abundance, rather than chasing freedom. And I'll just tell you this, I'll try to break it down real simple and easy. If you get on a nature show and you watch a cheetah chasing a gazelle, they're both running.
Yes.
Only one is enjoying it. Now you got one
funny.
animal running from something,
Right.
You got another animal chasing. It is way more fun to chase. Now from the outside world, it looks like everybody's running. But internally, if you were chasing a life of abundance, if you're chasing financial freedom and you have purpose and impact and meaning that you are going after, you're not just retiring from your job, you're retiring to a whole new chapter in your life. And unfortunately, a lot of people see retirement as some sort of like a finish line. And there's two really dangerous aspects of that. Number one, there's a tendency to look at, well, if retirement is a finish line, then and I hear this all the time, Maurice, when I retire, I'll spend more time with my loved ones. When I retire, I'll focus on my health. When I retire, I'll focus more on my faith, spend more time in church, ministry, volunteering, all that stuff. It's almost like we put everything on pause because we've got this imaginary finish line out in the future. And we say that I'm going to pin my ears back and go after this thing. And then we miss the journey. We miss the process. And the other thing that gets people in trouble too is, well, what do you do when you cross the finish line? You stop, you slow down, you quit running. And I believe that if somebody has truly created financial independence. So we don't call it retirement anymore. We call it a work optional lifestyle. You're independent from your paycheck. And if you get to a place where you no longer need your job, you have so much more ability and energy and time to make the biggest impact of your life. So for me, I don't look at it as retirement as a time to kick back, relax, and just, sit around. It shouldn't be a 20-year vacation. I believe it's an opportunity for people to really pour into their purpose because they don't have that 9-to-5 job holding them back anymore.
So what I hear is people need to change their mindset, right? So how would you encourage someone to change the mindset of even one, and you could take this a bunch of different ways, right? But when people are trying to find their purpose, it takes them a long time to try to figure out, you have other people that have their parents directing them into a specific direction, right? And then, they're not happy into what they're doing, so forth and so on. But so how do you get people to change the mindset towards that idea of retiring into their purpose?
So I think that there's a lot of different aspects of this. One of the things I ask people, and it's a rhetorical question because I want them to sit and stew on it, but I ask them, if you never had to go to work ever again, what would you want your life to look like? What would wake you up in the morning? What would challenge you? Because people still need meaningful pursuit. Now, there's still going to be stress. There's still going to be difficult. Doesn't matter how wealthy you are. There's still going to be challenges in your life. Right. You might as well choose some challenges that mean something to you. So, like I said, we don't want retirement or a work optional lifestyle to be a 20-year vacation. Right. It should be purposeful. You've got to still be chasing something. So I try to get people when they're in their 40s and 50s, even 20s and 30s, but thinking about what would they want their life to look like. You are the architect to your own life. Let's start designing it, because about 6 months after people retire, Maurice, everybody's busy, either by design or by default. So as the architect to your own life, let's start designing right now what you want your life to look like. Another thing that has been really helpful for a lot of people is a book by Simon Sinek called Start With Why. And it causes people to be more introspective, start looking at their purpose and what really lights them up. And there's a lot of different ways to go about doing this, but I think unfortunately we get a lot of our dreams and our missions. We get that kind of ironed out of our life, like there are wrinkles that need to be eliminated. And you think of like a little kid, they're cowboys, they're nurses, they're kings, they're queens, whatever. And we were born to dream bigger, but pragmatism and practicality kind of beats that out of us.
Yeah, it does.
And I think we need to find that again.
So how would you encourage someone to do that, especially if your culture, your community, your family do not allow you to be in that space? How would you encourage someone to dream? Because a lot of times we stop dreaming, especially after, like you say, after 40, 50 years old, you're like, okay, well, this is my life. I don't have anything else to live for, to work for, whatever it might be. So how would you encourage someone to dream, though?
Well, I think that's just a big part of it, is giving somebody permission to dream again. Because there's a certain part of us that believes that that's just for little kids. And I don't believe that. I think that we need to dream. And when I say dream, I don't mean this is just, throwing hopes and ideas out into the future and hopes, but talking about something specific and measurable and making a plan to get there. It's a dream with action attached to it. But too often we get a sense of a dream or an idea, and then we squash it. We eliminate it before it even has roots and chance to grow, because we tell ourselves that'll never happen. It's impractical. It'll take too much time. It'll take too much money. But I think people, especially somebody who's thinking about being an entrepreneur, or they are an entrepreneur, but really creating a vision for what they want their life to look like, line your business, line your career up with how you want your life to unfold. And it's hard because you got to balance the day-to-day. Yeah. But we have to reverse engineer this, Maurice. We have to create a vision for what we want our life to be like in 10, 15, 20 years, and then reverse engineer that into today. to take a blueprint of how we want our life to look. And what a blueprint does when you're building a house is it takes this long-term project and it brings it into today's actions. It says, this is what I need to do today to get in alignment with this house in the future. We need to do the same thing with our lives, to create a vision for what we want our lives to look like and have a blueprint that connects those future objectives with our actions today.
So with that, that means, habits or value, sticking to our values or whatever it might be. But so how do we create a relationship with what our potential future us? How do we start building that relationship today?
Well, and that's these tie so well together. So essentially what you need to ask yourself, what people need to ask yourself, what I ask myself is, what do I want to be doing? Where do I want to be? But ultimately, who do I want to become? And then trying to find those inputs that match up with that outcome. Like, what are the actions today that leverage and align with that person that I'm trying to become? And essentially what I'm doing is I'm asking myself, how do I serve the future version of me? Because I believe every action we take, every choice, we're either stealing from or serving future us.
Right.
And the more clear that we can get about how we want our life to look and who we want to become, the easier it is to make decisions that benefit our future self. Because the way I'm living my life now, Maurice, I want to make the future me proud of the decisions I made today.
Right.
But I have to be thinking of it through that mindset. Because a lot of times we think of the future versions of ourselves almost like a different person. Like, I'm going to buy this car, future me has to pay for it. I'm gonna buy this new big screen TV, no payments for 6 months. Some of us, we just did this for Christmas. We just bought a bunch of stuff for people that we might not even like, and we just thought, okay, no payments for 6 months. Like Maurice in June has to figure this out,
right?
Like that's his problem. I gave you this gift today, whatever, but. We act like that, though.
Yeah,
we make decisions that create consequences for ourselves in the future, but we almost treat it like that person is different from us. And it goes both ways, too. On a positive side, when we're putting money in our 401k or we're saving up or we're paying down debt, maybe paying off our house early, or we're in the gym exercising, we're trying to eat healthy. Those momentary decisions, if we don't have a good relationship with our future self, it feels like a cost. It feels like a price that we're paying. But if we're thinking about it, like I'm paying future me, I'm serving future me. Now it feels like an investment, not a cost.
How important is that investment? You had mentioned it earlier in your speech. How important is that? Because a lot of times we think that the investment might be too much. It might cost us too much. But how important is that for someone to invest, whether it's the 401k, whether it is your business? How important is that? And should we be so cautious on it in this, today? Because sometimes we are. Sometimes we're overly cautious.
So we only have one future. And I believe investing in oneself is the most important investment they can make. And there's various ways to do that. It can be in your health. It can be in your education. It can be your opportunities. But I think too often we sit back because of fear and we don't invest. Now, we might educate ourselves, we might learn and research, but at some point we need to act. So you can study investments and 401ks and stock markets and all that, but at some point you need to make the sacrifice, put your money into those mutual funds. You can research a diet or an exercise program, but at some point you need to get to the gym, work out. You can look at business plans and study the economy and things like that, but at some point you got to start that business. So there is a balance between preparing and acting. We can educate ourselves, and that's important. Don't get me wrong. But at some point we need to execute. So we're coming up on January 1st here, and a lot of people are going to come up with New Year's resolutions and things like that. And we all know that most of the times those fail because too often the goal is not measurable enough. It's too squishy. It's like, I want to be healthier or I want to make more money, but it's not measurable. Like, well, what does healthier look like? Let's attach some specifics to that, because
Right.
the human brain hates ambiguity. It loves specificity. So I can say, I want to be healthier. My brain has no idea what that looks like. I want to be able to walk a mile without needing to rest, or I want to lose 10 pounds by April, or I want to be able to bench press my body, whatever it is. Those are all measurable and tangible. The other thing people do to get themselves in trouble is they make the goal too big. I want to lose 60 pounds this year. That's great. You might be able to do that, but man, that's a big goal. Or maybe I've never saved before in my life. I want to save $10,000. We need to be willing to start small and create those habits, because what happens a lot of times, we'll just use the gym as an analogy, because everybody can relate to the fitness goals. January 1st, the gyms are packed. February 1st, they're already empty because people have already given up. Because they go out and they think about all these things they want to do. They start doing like Navy SEAL workouts. You get somebody who hasn't worked out in 15 years, like, yeah, I'm going to do what special forces do. After 3 or 4 days, they're miserable. They don't slow down. They quit. So we need to be willing to start slow and just build on small, tiny, but important actions that add up over time. So for some people that are trying to start better financial habits, it might be saving just a few dollars a day. It might be adding just $50 a month to paying a debt down early. Somebody who's trying to get started in a business, like, what is the smallest action that you can take to start your business? Maybe it's getting a relationship with an accountant. Maybe it's searching through your network and finding 10 people in that space that can guide you and coach you. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's listening to this podcast 3 times a week. But what is the smallest step that you can take that you can commit to for a year? Because a lot of times people just try to take too big of a leap on January 1, and they might stick with it for a day, a month. But this isn't about what you can do in the next week or in the next month. It's what you can do over the next 10 years, 50 years. It's what you can do over the rest of your life. So I encourage people to start with actions that are meaningful so they make an impact, but small enough that they can stick with them.
So what are some misconceptions? Because we haven't really spoke about your background, right? So what are some misconceptions of investing and financial planning that people, tend to make?
I think there's a lot of people that push this off because it's important, but it's not urgent. There is never a day that happens like, oh my goodness, I need a financial plan today. And a lot of times people reach out to us when there's some sort of a trigger. Maybe they lose their job. Maybe a parent dies and they get inheritance. Like my dad's financial life was a mess. It just got dumped on me. I don't want to do this to my kids. I need a plan. Maybe it's they find out that their job is ending in 6 months or a year. There's usually some sort of a trigger, but it's easy to push off, right? It's one of those things that's very, very important, but it's rarely urgent. And we often let the urgency of today take up our time, and the important things get pushed off until tomorrow. Tomorrow becomes 6 months, then it becomes 6 years.
Right.
So a lot of times people think, well, I can do this later. The further off that you push planning, the harder you have to work to make that plan do what it needs to do. The further off that you push investing, the further off you push saving, the harder you're gonna have to work. So start today. You can start small, but start today.
So if you had to give an idea, right, of how people can start off small investing, and I'm not asking for any tips, we're not talking about any of that type of stuff, right? But what can they do today just how to invest in themselves, something small?
I think it circles back to how we started this conversation, Maurice. It's spending some time in stillness and quiet and really asking yourself, what do I want my life to look like? Who do I want to become? And start finding actions that leverage towards that goal. So it might be, for some people, it might be committing to reading a certain number of books every year. For other people, it might be committing to a savings goal. For others, it might be committing towards paying down debt, to starting their education again, finishing that degree. Maybe it's just getting a certificate so they can get that promotion. I don't know. But a lot of people react to what's around them because they're not acting on a long-term plan. You can't build a house without a blueprint. You can't have a blueprint unless you have a vision for what you want that house to look like. It's really hard to create a plan for your life if you don't know what you want to, if you don't know how you want your life to end up. And a lot of people are living so much in the moment. They're dragging their regrets of the past. They're bearing the fears of the future, and it's causing them to react in the moment instead of proactively acting on who they want to become. So I think it starts with that.
Cool. So Chad, I thank you very much for coming on today. I know we're running out of time. So when people want to take this first little step, right, where can they reach out to you to have this type of conversation?
They can reach us at our website. It's veritasalaska.com. And we were founded here in Alaska, but we got folks all over the nation. So you can be thousands of miles away. We can still help. veritasalaska.com. You can also shoot us an email, ask@veritasalaska.com. And I'm sure that you've got some of the social media links in the show notes. People can find us on Instagram and LinkedIn as well. Okay, that's cool. That's cool. So Chad, thank you very much for coming on. But as you well know, you listen to the show. I ask my would you rather question to everybody, right? My would you rather question today is, would you rather choose a fork in the road or 3 doors? Fork in the road.
Why a fork in the road?
Because you've got something to kind of compare that to, and you've got another pathway, and it's easier to compare 2 things than to compare 3. And I think when the more choices we have, the easier it is to live in regret. You think of like a really fancy restaurant. They don't usually have a menu that's 5 or 6 pages long because there's something to decision fatigue. So they have a few things they do really, really well. So a fork in the road allows me to look at 1 versus 2. I can make my decision, and then I can commit to it. Wow.
Thank you for that analytical mindset. Like I said, so, I've been saying, for a while, some people like to peek, some people say, hey, road less travel, but I didn't think of it from that perspective. I thank you, Chad, for that.
Hey, it's my pleasure.
So thank you very much for listening to That Will Never Work podcast. And of course, all the information will be in the description. Talk to y'all later.
Thanks for listening. Find us on social media at Chisholm Group LLC and check back weekly for new episodes. Until next time, that will never work, or will it?
An avid cyclist dreams of turning his passion into a business. He consults his banker to help find the best path. Now bike wheels are being built, and all it took was a little push to get rolling. First Horizon Bank. Let's find a way. Go to firsthorizon.com/Clint.
Hey guys, it is Ryan. I'm not sure if you know this about me, but I'm a bit of a fun fanatic when I can. I like to work, but I like fun too. It's a thing. And now the truth is out there. I can tell you about my favorite place to have fun. Chumba Casino. They have hundreds of social casino style games to choose from with new games released each week. You can play for free anytime, anywhere. And each day brings a new chance to collect daily bonuses. So join me in the fun. Sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.